All right, and we are back. The On My Block podcast. Co-host Mike Wall with me. Packers all-time leading rusher, most handsome man in Green Bay, Wisconsin, soon to be Houston, Texas. Ahman Green. Ahman, what's up, babe?
Appreciate for
Ahman,
the
take
intro.
that. There we go. We're off mute. There we are.
There we go. Appreciate
What's going on,
that.
man? Happy
man,
summer.
Not much. Yep. Happy summer. Just packing up, getting strong. I'm putting that.
Right.
I'm like in my training camp mindset because it's like endless days of boxes.
You know what? I was just talking about this with somebody else. They're always like, looking back, man, you know how you flip that switch after July 4th and you just kind of get a little bit like your ears are up all the time. You're kind of looking to make arguments a little bit more, like all that kind of stuff's happening. And I still work with these. I've been working with these a handful of guys on different teams about the last month.
Yeah, I saw one of your posts on Twitter. It looked good.
It's just nuts, man, because we're so far removed from that, but I still feel it. Like I
100%.
I just still feel. And I saw there's a place down in Houston you can check out. It's called All In. It's OLLIN. Guy's name is Dr. Lou. Runs this facility.
Okay.
He's got about 40 guys going through there. NFL guys all the time.
Okay.
He's got physical therapy. He's unbelievable facility, right?
I'm gonna have to stop.
Does soccer, does everything. But AG. So I'm there working with these dudes, and then there's a bunch of retired guys that show up, and I don't know if they're. I mean, like I know like Antonio Cromartie's there working with some DBs. Like there's some guys working with dudes, but there's also just some guys that are just wanting to just be around, and they're just hanging out and they're teaching. They're taking the information they had and trying to help the next generation.
Yeah.
And it's just, dude, it was so refreshing to be in that environment again, where it's just all players looking out for each other. Everybody's working to make the younger guys better. It was fun, man. I had a great time.
Oh man, I love that environment. That's a thriving environment right there.
It really is. It really, it's you forget sometimes just how much fun it is to be in the locker room come this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
People you're on the same page with. Same mindset, because you know what training camp is about. And for ours, it was a redundant thing of, is it the next day or where are we at? And because our bodies are like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
As you get older, like you never had a moment where you were thinking, okay, I'm going to save. You're not saving yourself for anything.
No, zero.
But you do get to understand how the game's played and what practices are going to have an emphasis and like when we have 9-on-7, we have goal line. It's like, okay, like pull it back a little bit tighter today because that means goal line's live and that means something a little bit different. We have to win every one of those reps. Because then if we win the rest of those reps, like the rest of the day, the rest of the next 2 days, like Sherm's going to be happy. Life is good. You know what I mean?
Really good. Exactly. I know what you mean.
If AG gets if you get 3 first downs and 3 touchdowns in that series, like we're done. It's like the rest of the week. It's like everyone's gonna be pretty happy with us.
Very happy. Yeah, very happy.
Man.
Yeah, coaches are a lot less stressed, and sphincters are not tight anymore. Let's just say that.
So, in the betting lines right now. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. I almost forgot them on our favorites. BetOnline.ag.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for our sponsor. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. So head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get into the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And AG, I was just going to say on BetOnline, if you look at the odds to make the playoffs in the NFC North, we're last. Packers are dead last.
Ooh, kind of like that post you that retweeted about the social media as well.
Well, we should talk about that. Let's talk about that. We can talk about it right now or a little bit later if you want.
We can do that later for Get Off My Line.
But listen, I suppose that makes, like, rationally, the logical me goes, okay, you just lost, top 2 or 3 quarterback in the league, Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't care where you want to rank him, guys. He's, somebody tweets back at me. He's not this and that. Hall of Fame quarterback, right? One of the all-time greats.
Yes.
You just lost him. You have young receiver room, young tight end room, defense that has underperformed. Detroit Lions are getting better. Minnesota Vikings kind of have all their pieces back minus Dalvin Cook. Their offensive line is going to be better. Their defense is going to be better with Brian Flores calling the plays on that defensive side. And then, of course, you have the Chicago Bears, which from a talent standpoint, they started to shore up that offensive line. Justin Fields is a game-changing talent at the quarterback position. Are they going to keep developing him? They brought some weapons in to help him on the outside. Defensively, they got to fill some holes to fill. But you can see, like, it's not that hard for me to make that argument. And then add to the fact that strength of schedule-wise, comparison, if we're just looking at the Packers and the Bears, if we're scraping for the bottom of the NFC North, the Bears are going to have an easier schedule this year, aren't they?
For sure. And they understand the process. I mean, they know the guy is, like you mentioned, Justin Fields is the guy, and then defensively, they just got to make sure they tighten up some areas. Defensive back wise, and just making sure coverage wise is there. Offensive line, obviously, they did help out, but just making sure they're more consistent, and that's what I say. Most teams on any team want the offensive line be consistent, because when the offensive line is up and down, then game planning for certain things against certain defenses is hard. It's hard to structure that game plan.
I'm still not convinced that their offensive line is right, like where it needs to be. Certainly I would take the Packers offensive line 10 times out of 10 at maybe every position but right tackle now, with them bringing in the young stud from Tennessee, one of our favorite guys in the draft. But I think they're just going to be a good team. Soldier Field's always a tough place to play. It's the right environment. It's a city that's desperate for somebody to come out and win. So, I can't really argue with the placeholder. I guess when we look at it, I just start looking at, okay, position by position, like what has to happen for guys to get better. Let's start with maybe the one that we've talked about the most over the last 2 years, AG. What could be the plan in the safety room right now? I mean, Rudy Ford had a good season last year. He had 3 interceptions, had about a couple pass breakups. He's an absolute stud in the run game. But he's got a long ways to go in order to be a kind of a top tier, even at the Adrian Amos level, I think. And then we're looking at a guy at Darnell Savage who got benched, and now they've just put him back in. Now, listen, I've got benched and they put me back in, so I'm not saying that this doesn't happen.
Correct.
Okay, but
correct.
what I'm saying is, you usually have to, unless you've seen something different, unless something fundamentally changed in that equation, you at least have to go, maybe I should be bringing in some maybe top tier guys, free agents, top tier guys, draft picks, and they were kind of pushing at the end of the draft, unrestricted free agents to bring in some new meat there. So, what do you think the plan is?
I think the plan is, knowing that Darnell Savage was a first-round draft pick, they're trying to give him that benefit, or just give him that extra cushion of trying to prove himself, of understanding what he needs to know at this defense. But obviously for us and for me, it's like, what, third, fourth year? I know it was 3 years for me at running back. It was clicking. When I got here, everything just clicked. I was like, I'm helping Dorsey out in terms of verbiage, in terms of what to look out on certain plays, pass or run plays. And so if by year 3 is not clicking, then they just looking at, okay, we already put big money on him because he's a first round draft pick. So we got to at least give him this one more year. And I would say you got to speak up. If you're the GM, if he has to have a talk, Gutekunst's got to have a talk with him, or one of the scouts got to pull him to the side and say, hey, this is it. There is no more time left. We need you here. We need you to step up. The ability that we saw on film when you're at Maryland to bring you, at that, to draft you at that high number, we want to start seeing that now. Because I remember I didn't talk a whole lot to guys, but scouts would just come up to me and be like, AG, we don't know if you're about to turn it on, but turn it on now. They'll just say it out of the blue to me, coming here. One of my first, what's his name? Sammy Seal, our scout.
Sammy Seal.
He will always grab me and AG. He said, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Yep. He said, if you don't do it, I'm on you. I'm going to tell you, because I know you got the ability to do certain things that other running backs can't do. I would see him in the cafeteria every other day during training camp, and he would say those type of things. So hopefully somebody's just letting him know, because that's urgency that they got to have. Players got to have, and we understand what that means, what urgency means. When you hear that.
No doubt. And I was going to say, no doubt, AG. And one thing that for fans out there, especially back in like the Holmgren days and the Mike Sherman days, there was just two factions of adults in the room when you were talking about the people that are interfacing with players. And I always remember John Schneider being one of these guys. John Dorsey was a hard ass, but he's a guy that
he was with me in Seattle. Yeah,
biggest hearted, best guys in the world. And these guys would pump you up. It was like their job. They wanted you. They were a large reason you were in the building, and they wanted you to succeed. And man, they would come in and pump you up. I mean, I remember good days, bad days, good years, bad years. They would come in and, it was sometimes it was tough love. Sometimes it was like, man, you are killing it right now. They would always just make you feel like you were 10 feet tall. And then the reality was you'd have to go back. And the coaches, it was kind of their responsibility. But like, hey, man, we're having honest and truth talk right now as much as we're able to. And we're going to tell you what you need to do to get better. But you had this group in the building. And I think that's so important. It might be a really important thing for a guy like Savage right now, who's had a kind of an up and down career until now. Is like, dude, do you have that guy that you're talking about? It's always just in your ear, man. You can do this. You're the man. Like, positive affirmation guy. Do you have positive reinforcement, positive affirmation guy? Because the more guys you have, I'm not talking about guys that are, BSing you. We're true. We got to be truth tellers. Like, man,
these are truth tellers.
You speak some stuff into existence in this world, and I certainly think that can happen with a guy like Savage. Now moving over to another position, because we got a lot of questions coming in. And I'm just, aside from Jordan Love, let's just put this on the side.
We already know that's the question.
Is he going to play well or not? We'll have to see. All right.
Yeah.
But
we know that
there's a huge talent versus experience. I still got you, bub?
Yeah, I'm here.
There's a huge talent versus experience as Mon comes back in at the skill positions on offense. And this is like, when you talk about the Jordan Love thing, it's also, it's the Watson, it's the Reed, it's the Dobb, it's the Musgrave, it's the Tucker. Like, you got in the tight end room, the wide receiver room, you've got tons of untapped talent or unrealized potential as such far, but there's not a lot of experience. And everyone's talking about the tight end position in particular. Like, a lot of those guys don't have a lot of success. And my pushback is like, well, we had Bubba Franks. He was a Pro Bowler the first year. Right. And then I remember University of Miami Part 2, Jeremy Shockey, when he was with the Giants, dude, he's an absolute unit the first year. Right. So I don't think it's an impossible task. I think what you're asking really is, do these guys have the physical wherewithal and the tool set to be able to stay in there, play in and play out, and be a 3 or 4 down tight end? These receivers just kind of feel like the second year for receivers are going to have, I think Watson, Dobb, they're going to be good. I think Jalen Reed's just going to walk in. And honestly, I think Jalen Reed's going to walk in and be good. I think he had a down year last year because they had no quarterback. 2 years ago, he was an All-American. I think he's going to be a good player in year one. But these tight ends, from a physical standpoint, is there any reason to think that they can't hold up?
No, there's no reason they can't hold. Luke, Musgrave, Tucker, Kraft, and then we already know Josiah, what he can do. And he's been inserted into the run game a little bit, helping out with blocking. That's a whole new world.
And I think they've been using him as fullback a lot too, AG, in preseason here.
Yeah, exactly. So just him continuing to learn that side of it too. And he's the only veteran in the room. I mean, Tyler, he had a little bit. I think he played the most last year because he was drafted the year before that. So I think it was the same year as Josiah, and he didn't play that much, mostly special teams. But now he got more time last season. So that's where Josiah is the veteran in the room. But from ability-wise, from the film and from the time they drafted him, Luke, Tucker, they got those tight end bodies, minds, and I see, like I said this before we took our little break, that 49er scheme of tight ends, they have that ability here. And you just see how LaFleur and how the OC is going to put them together to get them in flux into, or I say inserted to the offense, how they're teaching them, how they're coaching them, how they installing offense, and how they not only the plays, but also this is tight end coaches saying, hey, this is your mindset coming into this play. This is the play we want. This is what we want out of you on this play. When this play, then the next play goes up on the screen. This is what we want out of you on this play. If it's running, if it's blocking, if it's running a route, whatever. So then those players, it makes it easier for them because you're pinpointing exactly what they need to do and where they don't have to think, because a lot of rookies are going to do that anyway. You're going to naturally think a whole lot about everything that's coming down your lane. You're taking notes. You're looking at the screen. You're listening to your coaches. You're listening to a vet talking to you or whatever. And you got a lot of process that rookie season of training camp. So give them less to learn so they could get into a comfort zone right away. And these guys, if they get comfortable real fast during training camp, I'm excited. I would love to have guys like these guys.
They have talent, and you're just. I echo the same thing, man. I think at the tight end position, it's mindset over everything else. But Bubba Franks, Jeremy Shockey from the University of Miami, mindset, right? Dallas Clark, George Kittle, right? University of Iowa, mindset. It's just a way. It's the way you approach the game. And if you're going to come in and approach the game with that physical mindset, hey, if Luke Musgrave and Tucker did nothing else but just said, I'm going to be the most physical dudes on every snap, whether it's true or not, but if they're going to play with that mindset, they're going to – I'm just telling everybody out there, they will excel in the National Football League. Because for their position right now, that is what is severely lacking in that room across the entire National Football League, except for maybe three buildings in the entire country.
Yep.
So if you can come in and just have that mindset, I'm going to be the most physical guy on the field. When I catch a ball, I'm running violent. When I'm blocking, I'm bringing my hips. I'm having my feet chase my hips. I'm shooting my hands violently. If I have that mindset and I just keep working my craft, like you can impact this game very, very early on, man. So I'm excited, just like you are, to see those guys.
Yeah,
Let's look to the other side of the field and talk about Quay, talk about Devondre Wyatt.
Yes.
What do you think the next step is? Start with Quay Walker, first-round pick last year.
Yes.
Played a ton, got a ton of experience when Javonte Campbell's out, being the number one guy at the linebacker position. Had some growing pains, let's just say, at the end of the season. In particular, like, what do you think the next step is with him, AG? And then, what is that one or two things that are really going to separate him this year from last?
Having his ability now match up with his tempo, because sometimes his tempo was either too fast, where he's overshooting the gap, overshooting the play, or too slow because he's reacting late. He's sitting back 5 yards trying to figure it out when he should have been in the hole, stopping the run or whatever. So now that talent and that tempo matches up. That's year 2 for him. And for most players, they don't have where it's a year 2. They usually use it's year 3 because it was a year of special teams and then back and forth, maybe year 2. And then not a whole lot in year 3. And then finally at the year.
Not reps-wise like him, at least, right?
Exactly. So he had all them reps, rookie year. And big games, even going out, starting with the game over against the Giants over in London. Big game. A lot of mistakes made. But then gradually every game you saw some good stuff. We saw some bad stuff. But taking the mistakes and making them positives more and then having less negatives coming into this season.
Yeah, to say it a different way, a lot of guys will say to me now, and we've talked about this before, the real physical presence that you feel from different players is a result of obviously confidence and want to, but also a result of conditioning. And I think what we're really saying with those guys is the game always feels slow because I never feel like I'm needing to catch my breath. I'm always in kind of like a parasympathetic, a little bit more relaxed state.
Yeah.
And what Quay needs to be able to do is he needs to be able to slow the game down. And he's certainly had the reps to slow the game down. He certainly has a good mentor in Devondre Campbell. And it's just a question of, do I want to become that kind of physical – do I want to be an Isaiah McDuffie in the run game and then use all the physical advantages in the pass game? Because we have guys on this team. We had Chris Barnes and Isaiah McDuffie, the guys that we sung their praises week in and week out because of the physical presence they have when they're on the field. Can I be that kind of guy? Is the game slowed down enough where I can hit the hole and hit the hole with confidence? Or do I have to still, make those tackles 6-8 yards down the field? And then can I just use what, the skills, the tool set, the talent that I've had and I've developed over the last 10 years of my life? Can I use that now and really stand out kind of in the passing game? Because I think, like, for us, we're going to look at the run game first. We're going to look at the box game. We're going to look at your ability to stop the run. But for the rest of the world, it's like, can you cover the tight end in the slot? Right. And that's a huge part of it. So I'm 100% with you, bro. What about Devontae Wyatt? Looking at who we lost in the defensive line, looking at the pickups that we have, the situation that there is, the defense that they've ran traditionally here, even though they start in the 3-4, listen, we're going to see a ton of nickel. Who is going to be that other guy aside from our man Kenny Clark that is going to command attention and respect so they can't consistently double team Rashawn or double team or always slide to Rashawn and Clark? Like, who's going to be that guy? Is it Devontae Wyatt? And if so, AG, what does Devontae Wyatt have to do to really take a next step?
I say what he has to do is he has to get his like I just mentioned with Quay Walker. He got to get in his comfort zone. He got to find the part wherever got him to Georgia, got him to be a starter and a leader and a focal point of that Georgia Bulldog defense. That's what he has to get. And that's what you have to do as a player. We talk about it all the time. Mindsets, how to come in ready to go. What you did in the offseason is preparing you. It's all of that. So it could be that for him, but he has to put his mindset there first, and then the physical comes second. He has to visualize that and put that into, taking notes diligently and stuff like that, and make himself understand the confidence but not the overconfident side of, where he's come from. Because everybody's going to assume he came from a national title team, playing from Georgia. They're a good team now in college football. They're going to just assume that he has
monster D linemen all over the place.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's a quiet, I say for me, I love it because that's how I came in. It was a quiet confidence about yourself where I knew my stuff and I let my action in practice show to impress you guys in terms of to let you guys from what I know I was doing. He has to do the same thing. He has to come in and let his teammates know from his actions and that he's ready to go. He's ready to make that step forward. And then understanding you got guys in the room to help you too. You got TJ Slayton, a veteran, somebody that he could depend on and then give feedback. And I say the big thing for all these players that we're talking is bounce stuff off your teammates. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid. Don't look at your teammate as an enemy or a rivalry. No, y'all are wearing the same helmets. It's a business.
The competition is up to the coaching staff. It's not up to you.
Exactly. It's not up to you. So ask your teammate, hey man, why did I look on that? Did I come out my stance real good, or was it too high, or whatever? Did I read that right? No. Get that honest feedback from your teammates. And that's what I would ask you. I would ask you guys. I would ask guys in my locker, in my room, in the running back room, to say like, what could I do better, or what didn't I do right on that last play? Even the coaches I had, I would ask that question to better me every day. So that's what I might say he has to have.
This is tangential a little bit, but obviously there's been some culture conversations going on with Georgia. There's a couple of different things that have happened over the offseason, right? Maybe the last 2 off seasons. Mm-hmm. And Devontae White being in a room where a lot of these guys have flourished at Georgia and then have moved on to the first round draft picks in the National Football League. You know how right now that like the Jets are going on to Hard Knocks and they're basically Jets are like, yeah, we're going to limit your access, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think Hard Knocks is and I totally agree with it. I think Hard Knocks has run its course. But here's what's I think of a guy like, and particularly for some reason, Devontae White is one of those guys that I'm just curious about.
Yeah.
You see that new quarterbacks that show on Netflix. Now I haven't watched it, but I heard that you
I heard about it. I haven't watched it yet either.
Yeah, really good, honest inside look. And with the amount of guys that have cameras following around, and the amount of content that they can curate, and the amount of like control they can have over their process and what's put out in the world, I would love to see guys like. I would love to start watching shows on guys like Devontae White. I want to know what that dude did this offseason. I want to see him work. I want to see him train. I want to see him talk to mentors. I want to see him go and experience new opportunities to work on your stance, your set, work with new experts, right? I want to see, I want to know. That's what those are the kind of guys I want to know exactly what's going on. I want to know about the guys that are the absolute best in the world. What are they doing? Right. I'm very fortunate to be able to work with some of those guys. So I know kind of what they're going through. And you and I have had the experiences already. But then I want to see those guys like, okay, you went through your combine stuff year 1. You did, it's a whirlwind, blah, blah, blah. Now, year 1 to year 2, what did you do this offseason? Did you get your stance lower? Right? Have you worked on your timing? Have you worked on your get off your hands? Are you working on redirection?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to? Are you going back to Georgia? Are you talking to Jordan Reed and all those other great guys that are there?
Yeah.
Who is it? Are you spending time with Kenny Clark? What are you doing to get better? There's such an opportunity there, not only for that player, but also when you talk about brand building, talking about fan engagement, like that is I think that's just a really unique, untapped opportunity that's going to be coming on in the next 5-10 years, man, because I'm like, for me, content-wise, I'm desperate to see what guys like Devontae White and Quay Walker do in the offseason.
No, definitely, because the ability is there. We know if they focus right, they're going to be special.
Yeah.
And so to see what they do behind closed doors, us being players, we'll know right away. It won't take 1 or 2 plays. We'll be like, oh, yeah, they were working on something this offseason. That's all it's going to take. If we were on the field as coaches right now, I'm coaching running backs, you're coaching the O-line, and I see Devontae do stuff from the running back point of view, and you see, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon do stuff you're going to be like, oh, they did some work this year. That's the first acknowledgement when other coaches, other players from the other position, your teammates acknowledge that. Be like, man, we saw you do this play when you come up with that move? I remember Nate Wayne saying to me when'd you do that? When you learn that? And I'm like, I was working with Sly. He was telling me about my footwork here, on planting and pointing my foot out to break out of the route, make me come out cleaner away from the linebacker to get more open on the one-on-one route. So stuff like that. And then I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just saying some gibberish to him. So
this is what was so great back in our day when we didn't have. I mean, honestly, this is why I was talking about like not wanting to be at OTAs, not wanting to be there the whole time because some of that's great, but also like I was so excited to come back and show everybody how hard I've been working. What my body was better. You're learning more. Like you can go learn from other people and then come back and like share that information. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Last one for me, AG.
Yeah.
What does Joe Barry have to do to change his stripes? And like they have so much talent, 7 or 8 first-round draft picks now. Lucas Van Ness now, another first-round draft pick. Quay Walker and Devontae White, 2 first-round draft picks last year. Okay, and on and on. And Devontae Savage, Darnell, blah, 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 and on and on and on. How Jair Alexander's top 2 or 3 cornerback in the league, right?
Yeah.
These rest of these guys, Rashawn Gary can be one of those guys if he comes back healthy.
Yeah.
What do you do? What does he have to fundamentally do? And not schemes, X's and O's, just like give me 1 or 2 things. He walks into the room day one and says, hey, I'm changing for the better. Here's
how. He has to let his players know what you just said from day one, and he has to do it in a way where they see it's just not coach speak. It's real. Like it's him. It's something he's thought about for the last 4 months. Since playoffs was over. Or no, they didn't make it to playoff. Since the season was over. Because a player knows when a coach is just coach speaking them. They're just saying the normal coach talk. When a coach comes in and it's like, it's about to get real out here. I think it was my running backs coach. I know Sly. He was one of those guys. Edgar Bennett, too, when he took over. He's one of those guys. They'll come in and say something just in the running backs room. You'll be like, it just got real. And then that wakes me up. That puts me on notice because then I got to make sure I'm showing up to play every day or I'm learning the playbook. I'm learning something different because now the scheme that's coming at us is going to be something a little bit more serious because if we don't abide by the guidelines, we're not going to be on that field. So he has to let people know, like, whatever his talk is, that first talk of training camp, and then whatever he worked on to look at, he's watched a ton of film from last season. He's took down all the errors that he made in play calling, in personnel changing, and when the right, certain little things he had to do at the right time, he didn't do them at the right time. And so he has to let them know in a way to let them know this is it. This is the time we all got to do this. We're in this together for one. I say saying that, when a coach says, hey, I'm in this with y'all, I'm not just a coach. I'm here with y'all. So let me know. When I hear that, I'm like, yeah, here we go. This is a guy I could trust. I could start to build that rapport with. So when I got a problem, hey, coach, you told me how to do this, but what's the world? I'm missing something. When you can ask those type of questions and dig in on each other and make each other better. This is the time, training camp. Then this season, it could be the changing season to where the reason he got brought in is to make this defensive side of the ball with the players they have, and they have the players to make this team or make this defensive side of the ball a problem for not just the NFC North, but any team facing this team throughout the 2023 season.
Players want to be put in positions to be successful, and they want the coaches to teach them how to find that success.
That's it.
If I'm this guy, if I'm Joe Barry, I walk in day one and I go, listen, we're going to play downhill. Our defensive tackles are better when they're moving forward, so we're going to have them penetrate. Rashawn Gary is going to pick up more sacks when we allow him to play the run on the way to the pass, on the way to the quarterback. So that's how we're going to play. Same thing with Preston. We're going to send Quay Walker on more dogs than even maybe more than we did last year because we found out that he operates pretty well when we give him an assigned route to go downhill. And he's good around the quarterback. Okay, we are going to use Rudy Ford as a box and as a run enforcing safety, and we're going to let Darnell Savage play over the top, and we're going to take one of the 2 or 3 best cornerbacks in the league, and we're going to stick him on their best player, and we're going to let him play football the way he should, and we're going to figure out if Eric Stokes or Rasul Douglas, whoever else is the other guy, we're going to compensate for their lack of, or we're going to compensate for what Jair Alexander is going to do across that for that one player. We're going to make sure that those guys are taken care of. And Jair, you got, hey, last year we did this against the Commanders and you lost out. Terry McCollum beat you.
Mm-hmm.
We are willing to take that bet 17 out of 17 games every single time. But we are going to be this kind of defense. And what does that require? We have to practice faster. We have to practice our tackling. We have to understand that our get off on the defensive line means more. So we're going to really exploit it because we have guys that can do this. But sometimes we're not maximizing the ability of these talented athletes, and they know it. And when they know it, they're not going to play up to. They're not going to play up to whatever ceiling that you're artificially setting for them because it's not the same ceiling that they see for themselves. So, we're saying something in a little bit different way, man. But he needs to come in there and put his foot in the ground and be like, hey, man, if I'm going out, we're going to go out doing it my way, and this is how I think we're going to help this team be the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure, because you send that clear message of what's going on, and that's what. As long as you do that, you send that message, and they understand it and what it is. Then players then they could just let it loose and know the game, because a lot of those players already know the technique. They know the fundamental. It's just getting it ready for everybody to be on the same page at the same time to have success. Basically,
I always feel like when you especially on the defensive line, talk about the box players. If we're going to play downhill, we're like attacking Jets defense.
Right.
One gap guys. If we're going to allow them to do that at least half the time, you're going to get more production. You just are. I mean, that's what they want to play. Nobody in their right mind signs up to play in the National Football League if it's two gapper. They'll do it because it's a job.
Yeah.
But ain't no defensive tackle trying to play two gap for their careers. I mean, Richard Seymour's a Hall of Famer. Ty Warren is unbelievable. I mean, the guys are unbelievable.
Folk. Yeah.
Yeah, Vince, they're listen. Every one of those dudes. Richard, I tell you, I played Richard Seymour all the time. I'll tell you, if you made that dude a one gap player, his numbers would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer already, but his numbers would have been ridiculous. He was a one gap player all the time. It's just different, man.
Smart,
and so
smart ahead size. Yeah.
Let's tackle the one of the week, man. They just got together. The running backs got together. I think old boy from the Chargers set up a little Zoom meeting. Everyone's upset. Saquon Barkley is upset. Tony Pollard signed his deal. Saquon didn't sign it. Who's the other fellow that didn't sign it? AG. My mind's slipping me. Dalvin Cook. No, so Dalvin doesn't have. He doesn't have one, right? I think that
he hasn't signed. I don't think, or
he hasn't signed. But the guys that have
Josh
been
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs. He just left Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like he's showing up for camp. Now here are the numbers, AG. We'll put them out there. The running back franchise tag right now is $10.1 million. About.
$10 million.
Now it used to be 14, like 10 years ago.
Really?
Ezekiel. Oh yeah. Wow. Ezekiel Elliott signed a 6-year, $90 million deal recently. $15 million a year, $50 million guaranteed. Christian McCaffrey signed a 4-year deal for $64 million, which is $16 a year, $25.5 million up
guaranteed.
Front, $38 million guaranteed.
38 guaranteed.
Okay. So right now the gap between, let's just put it in percentages. It's $5 million, $6 million gap from Saquon Barkley to Christian McCaffrey, but that's also a full 50% more, right? Than Ezekiel is going to make 50% more. Christian McCaffrey is going to make 50% more a year than Saquon or Josh Jacobs can sign by signing their tenders. In other words, if they signed and they don't have any other options, you sign your tender or you're not playing football. There is no other option. Because the way that we've done these deals, the way the owners fleeced the NFLPA, a running back in the National Football League whose lifespan is 29 years old, according to the bean counters, according to the analytics experts, and really, except for Adrian Peterson, let's be honest.
Yeah.
That number is not that far off, right?
No.
And the more they run, the less valuable they become because, he got more hits. I mean, Derrick Henry might reset this whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's nuts. But the reality here is from the minute the first round draft pick signs, they can just, if they're 22 years old, they can just go, if I'm good, I am not going to be a free agent in this National Football League until 29 years old. And at that point, I make my rookie contract. I get franchised twice for $10 million or thereabouts. Okay. And I've made a ton of money. But when I start looking at my value, Saquon Barkley in particular, relative to everybody else on this team, my value to the New York Giants football franchise versus everybody else versus Daniel Jones, who's about to make $40-some million a year, you just go, oh my God. What do you do, AG?
Oh man. I mean, it's a tough thing because it's the whole system of what the NFL is doing right now. The NFL for the last 10 years has created the passing league. It's a passing league from rule calling changes, penalties and all that competition stuff, to wide receivers. I mean, genetically just being taller and faster. Megatron. It started with Megatron, and now you got kids that are sick. Well over. I played with Andre Johnson. He was 6'4", 225. He went 4'4". Okay.
Julio Jones, it's
that was 2002, and he retired. He played for 10 years. Julio Jones was after him. So you have kids just like so this game is tailored, and it's obviously about putting touchdowns in the end zone. The deep ball gets there faster. You got better quarterbacks, more accurate, more ability, like a Pat Mahomes, like a Josh Allen. So it's the game. The house is against the running backs right now. We're going to talk gambling, Vegas stuff. Everything's against the running backs in terms of what they should try to earn. But their value, I think this is where the teams will get in trouble. It's going to bite them in the ass if they don't have that guy back there in that backfield when your quarterback is beat up, can't do some of the things like a Pat Mahomes can do or like a Josh Allen can do. That's when it's going to bite them in the ass, because you want to move the ball. You want to drain the clock. Say if your defense is not playing up to snuff, you want to hold that ball. The only way you do it, you got a run game. You got an offensive line. You got some running backs back there that can drain that clock. So
guards are making franchise guard will make $7 million more a year than a running back now. Right. Think about that.
Right.
That's nuts.
That is crazy. So to the ones, when I say to the ones, I mean the teams out there that are trying to predicate their offense on the pass game and devalue the running back, like the Giants are right now, bringing in the kid from Jacksonville to try to replace Saquon. That's a valiant effort, but that is no way comparison. Those two guys. Is the one kid a good running back? Yes, he's a good running back. He's no Saquon Barkley.
Right.
He's a guy. Saquon is a guy we saw win that game against the Packers in London last year. From his big play ability, from the start of the game to the end of the game, he was the main reason that game was won, and other games down the road for last season for the Giants.
But AG, do you think that people are like the teams are just doing what they're supposed to do? Because here's the example I've given everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in 2003. You and Priest Holmes were the top two running backs in the National Football League from yards per scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
And arguably the best two running backs in the league. Okay. So you were averaging about 5 yards a carry. Tony Fisher was also averaging 5 yards a carry. And Najee was also averaging 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, we were putting
now we all know that your 5 yards a carry is different than their 5 yards a carry. Like we know that because we're football players. But when you think about it now, with the nickel defenses, 5 in the box, 6 in the box, getting 4.5 yards a carry ain't that hard for most of the game. From the 20 to the 20, I can hire damn near anybody, and they can get 4.5, 5 yards a carry. Now, when it gets down to, hey, we need a good running back, we need an Ahman Green, now these teams are going to miss out. But from a bean counter standpoint, analytics guy, they're going to go, no. Why are we going to pay Ahman X amount of dollars when I can pay Tony and Najee a fraction of that amount of money for when they go to the public?
Right.
They're all going to see 5 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry. And in the locker room, we're going, come on, man, it's Ahman Green. You know what I mean?
Right.
Come on, man, it's Saquon Barkley.
Right.
But to the public, to the general manager, to the guys that are running the checks, it's so easy now because of analytics to go, oh, it's same. And I don't know what they do. Like Saquon, you hold out. If you hold out, you could stand on your morals and miss out on $10 million, man. Like I'm saying, where I'm sitting, $10 million sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna not hold out, but I'm at least say something like he was saying all off season, but business. Then you gotta be after that. You gotta be a smart businessman, because we already know when he's going to set out the season how GMs are going to think. Oh, he set out a season. Can he?
Well,
be
Le'Veon Bell. Look what happened to Le'Veon Bell's career.
Exactly. Because if you take that year off, what you've been doing he already had the injury, but he came back, got back to regular Saquon. So you don't basically reset that, where you're going to have to reprove himself again, and that's an even tougher sell, because why? It's a year later, no football, no playing, and then it's a year later on his life. He's now 1 year older to what we're talking about, getting closer to 30. And then I remember before 03, I was getting report from the reporters in our locker room to hearing commentation on NFL Network about me. In 01 and 02, they were already saying I was long in the tooth. And I'm like, I'm not even 25 yet. I was like, what the
Just because of the carries, you mean?
Yeah. And I knew that. But you know what? It was just like, wow. Just the narrative was just interesting. And hearing it now and seeing it now, it's just like, man, it still ain't went nowhere. They're just doing it a little differently now, because now there's something strong. And it's the pass game for a lot of teams out there. They have these quarterbacks. They have wide receivers. And even the teams that are just like right at average, like the Giants, they still have a Daniel Jones who can chuck the ball. He's a running. I won't say he's running the mill, but he got a big deal. But that talent is there, and he has the wide receivers to help him out. So in that team, in that scheme. So
yeah, I think the hard thing is, I mean, if you're a running back in this day and age, do you start looking at yourself like, man, I got to be like a Deebo Samuel, or I mean, I know he's, you start looking like, okay, do I just have to? Do I have to become more of a hybrid player? Do I need to like reclassify myself as a wide receiver, a slot guy?
I say what you got to do is, as a running back, you don't want to get into that mind game, for one.
Yeah.
Because then you're lost. You either say to yourself, like you declare it in the off season, because you got to train your body to be a Deebo Samuel. So I wouldn't start thinking that obviously right now. I'm thinking that back if we lost a playoff game or we didn't go, deep in the playoffs at all. I'm in January. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, next season, this is starting now. Our season just ended. Now I'm gonna be the runner that I know I want to be, the runner. Because I remember hearing this from a friend of Brett's. When Brett got inducted, I went out to Ohio, and I was at his party. And his college or his high school teammate came up to me and said, Ahman, I've been wanting to meet you. Shook his hand. He said, great to meet you. Long story short of it, though. He said, Ahman, Brett told me that you were the best pure running back that can, not pure running back, but running back that can do more than one thing. You could catch the ball and you could run the ball. Because he noticed that once he got to Minnesota with AP, that he was just a straight runner. We could give him the ball. That's what he is. He's a running back. He's not going to go run a screenplay. He's not going to go one-on-one in the slot against a linebacker or go on the edge and go deep route. No, that's not AP. AP is you give him the ball, he runs. That's it. But I could run screens. I can run routes against linebackers. I could pick up the blitz very well and all that stuff. And that was the difference. So they got these players, these running backs, got to know who they are way before the season starts, because then that determines on how successful they're going to be, basically.
And so then it lends the question: if you're playing the running back position, you came from Seattle, but like really, you're Seattle. Like that Seattle door closed early, and your Green Bay door opened when you were quite young.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get on these teams that end up wanting to build their offense at least partially around your style of play,
correct?
Like these good teams, the smart teams that are like we were just talking about with Joe Barry, like, I've got guys that can do this. I better start using that more.
Exactly.
Oh, Ahman can catch screens in addition to everything else. We should probably become a good screen team. Those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're there, this is the other hard part for, I think, the running back position. It's not like Christian McCaffrey goes from Carolina Panthers who want to run the ball to the San Francisco 49ers who want to run the ball. But, a lot of guys, they'll go from a team whose philosophy, I went from a team that wanted to be a top 3 offense to a team that wanted to be a top 25 to 30 offense. They just wanted to be average. They didn't care in Carolina. And so when that happens, like the ability to use a specific skill set that you might have, whether it's frequency, whether it's style of runs, whether it's a little of the plays they call, it changes. And so it's hard for these guys like Saquon. Like Saquon's always going to be good. Josh Jacobs is always going to be good. But are they better is Saquon better with the Giants than he is if he goes somewhere else? Probably, because he's the feature guy.
Yeah.
Because without Saquon, it don't work there.
No.
But he can go somewhere that they've got a good quarterback, they get a good wide receiver, and all of a sudden, like, he might not be the number one option. And maybe that's important to him, either from a production standpoint or just like, dude, I want to be the face of the franchise. I don't want to leave. And I think that's the hard part where we get to this ultimately is like, dude, he's the face of your franchise. He's the MVP of your team, and you're not required to pay him. And Ezekiel Elliott, when Ezekiel Elliott signed that deal, I think every rational person was like, well, that's going to backfire. Like, it's just, it just didn't, like, he doesn't come off as the kind of guy that was going to work out for, whether it was for for whatever reason.
Yeah. I was hoping, I liked him. I was hoping to.
Yeah, but it ends up being a bad deal,
exactly.
But is Saquon that guy? You know what I mean? And the Dallas Cowboys have Tony Pollard. They have Dak Prescott. They had CeeDee Lamb, or they at the time they had Amari Cooper. So it's like they have other guys there. So you start going like, dude, if he fails at all, getting paid all that money, dude, they'll just go to all these other dudes, right? Yeah, but Saquon, looking at Saquon, like, what other dudes?
Exactly.
There's nobody else here. It's me.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And see, that's the difference between him and Ezekiel. Ezekiel was that one step and go. He got the ball. He was downfield. He had the line to do it too, where you didn't have to think about much. Just get upfield. He got Pro Bowl guards in there. And now in Ezekiel, the line better than I do. So from an offensive lineman standpoint what he can do and what he has to deal with game by game. So he knows his game has to be a little bit more dynamic. So he can run the ball, but then he could get out on the edge. He will do the screen game. They do the screen game with him very well, and he catches the ball very well out of the backfield. So that's kind of where he is a little different than Ezekiel here in this situation. So
you want to do some get off my lawn?
Oh, 100%. Let's get it.
Listen. Get off my lawn. All right, man. So the first one I got. This is the Women's World Cup's up, and look, my daughter plays soccer, my son plays soccer. We're huge soccer fans, and we want to support. And I don't even want to get into the whole men versus women sports. I'm just so sick of it, right? Like I'm so sick of that whole discussion and everything. And I of course I am, whatever. But here's the deal, man. The Women's World Cup. So the women's national team, you have all the success, and like these are the times where if you're going to make a push, you got to make a push, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so so they go to FIFA and they say, hey, we're gonna market ourselves. We're gonna split off from the men. So usually when they do TV deals, they package the women together with the men's because the men's makes $6.3 billion and the women's makes $340 million. Some ridiculous. Like the numbers are like a 20x difference. Okay.
Right.
But the women are like, hey, we're doing so well and we're riding this wave and we got, Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe, we got these winners here and it's still time. Let's strike while the iron's hot and try to get some more things going. We just got the equal pay deal, which is really women get paid like 14 times more than men from a revenge standpoint. It's ridiculous. 14 times over exaggeration. But anyways, and so they did these independent deals instead of packaging everything, and they lost out on like 100. The reports are like somewhere between 150 and 250 $1 million they could have made if they just would have packaged the deals. And then they put the games in New Zealand and Australia this year. Like they get awarded to places that have no time zones that marry up with the United States or Europe. Yeah. And so all these games are on at like 6 a.m., 2 in the morning, 3. You're like,
I was watching the replay
of this up so bad.
Right.
Yeah. How could you screw this up so bad? You had this is a real opportunity. And I just feel like,
they
didn't get off my lawn.
Yeah. They didn't think ahead. So they didn't really put the visualization forward of what this is going to look like if we don't package this with the men, knowing that it's always worked. And it's sad because obviously now they're again behind the 8 ball because of the losses. And now it might have to, obviously, you're going next time this come up. It's every 4 years or every 2 years?
It's every 4 years, yeah. 4 years. And they're gonna break even this year.
Right.
You can spin this as a success because they did it.
Right.
That's not what my point is. Just like if you're gonna do that, and it's time you need to do that, right? Because we need to stop packaging them. We need to, we just need to appreciate. You need to appreciate sports for what they are, right? If you're playing Division III football and I'm playing Division I. That don't make me better than you. It just means you're playing Division III football, and that's the most important thing you're doing. If I'm watching a men's game and we're watching a women's game, I don't got to talk about like, well, the men could beat the women. So if you like to watch it, appreciate for what it is. If you don't like to watch it, turn the channel.
Right, exactly.
We don't need to do all this other stuff.
Yeah,
but
and that's the narrative of the media. We know that.
Well, but it's propelled by a lot of things, but it's really propelled financially. They want to get paid the same amount of money. So it was time that they do something like this. My whole point is like, then why put it in Australia where you can't even watch the games?
That's not good. I mean, like I said, I watched the replay of they play Netherlands tomorrow or Wednesday.
Tomorrow they played Vietnam 2 days ago.
It was they played Vietnam. I watched the replay of that game there. But I was like, at first I was like, I saw it on and I'm like, wait a minute, this time lapse. I think that's like if they then because they kept saying where they were, and I'm like, I know the time difference. They're there next day ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, wait a minute. So yeah, that part of it is just unfortunate that the planning of it, knowing the time zones and everything else makes it tough, makes it a bad situation for them.
Ahman, I don't know anything about the Church of Scientology except for I think
know
like
a little bit.
I think L. Ron Hubbard or like some science fiction writer.
You're right.
It,
You're right. In Los Angeles,
whatever
in Hollywood,
voodoo. Listen, whatever voodoo witchcraft that is going on over there that allows Tom Cruise at 60 years old to be still the world's biggest action star. Because I just watched Mission Impossible, the new one.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it unapologetically. That movie and the Top Gun Maverick are the two best movies I've seen, or most entertaining movies I've seen in like 2 years. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
60.
I know.
So like, what are they? What are they putting something in his drink? I mean, if you pay enough money into that place, do they have like you see that the billionaire who's like taking his grandson's 18-year-old like blood and like putting it in his system to reverse age? Like, what are they doing over there? Oh yeah, dude, there's some crazy stuff going on.
I see that.
Oh yeah, there's some rich guy who's like literally pulled like his grandson's blood and started injecting himself or plasma or something to like start reversing the aging process, man. It's a nuts story, but like I don't know what they're doing with Tom Cruise, but he looks amazing. First of all, he looks better than we do. I mean, like, the guy like it looks like he just touched 40. Now he's 60 years old.
Right. Look, I got much respect for my man Tom. He's been around a long time. The part I can't fathom. I can't believe from a movie standpoint. I know it's a fictional tale. MIP, what's this, 9 or 6? I don't know what's the number.
It's whatever.
It's up there. Him being that age, knowing that he's that age and kicking people's butt that's like in their 30s. I can't do it. I can't watch that.
And all the stunts. I mean, the stunts in this movie are just absurd.
For the last 10 years, when I watched the preview, I saw a preview. I remember the one where he jumped out of a building in Dubai, world's tallest Dubai skyscraper, from the top floor, and he's jumping off, and I'm like,
it's like running down the building and whatnot.
I'm like, he's running on. I'm like, no, I can't do it. I mean, even though I watch comic book movies, I know I'm contradicting myself, but it's like that's not believable. I get it. You could tweet.
I'd rather believe it's Thanos than that guy. Is what you're saying?
Exactly. At least I know it's fake. At least I know it's fake.
Right.
Like I know it's not real. Much respect for him because you got to do something. You got to have some athletic ability to pull off. I know he's not doing every single stunt. I know that, but he's doing majority of it. He's that type of guy. He's that type of actor. He's going to try to make it real as possible for us as fans to watch. I say on another note, another guy that's older than him, that's like in his 80s, at least in Indiana Jones.
I didn't see that.
Gotta watch it. Now, at least they tailored his stunts to his age. Like, he was throwing punches.
Getting out of a chair is a stunt. It's like,
So at least it's just fist fights, okay? And he's cracking the whip. That's it. He's 80, so it's like, hey, I'll punch a guy and I'll whip him with this whip. I'll push him out the window or something. They kept it to his age demographic of, okay, an 80-year-old can at least punch a guy if most of their life they've been in good health and good shape. At least they're catering to that for Harrison Ford, but for my man Tom, like I said, much respect, ton of money making the movies. At the end of the day, I think he's probably getting just to be on the script, probably just $50 million just to be on the script before they even know the movie's good or not.
He went to Paramount. The story is he went to Paramount without a script. He went to Paramount with an outline and asked them to write a blank check, and he would not blow up the budget. And they said, "You're Tom Cruise, we'll do it."
Wow, that's awesome.
So last one for you. We were just talking about superheroes being maybe more believable. So Comic-Con was just down in San Diego. We just rolled in yesterday. My parents were already down here. My wife stayed downtown.
Ooh, it's crazy downtown.
She's like, dude, it's crazy downtown. And I was just thinking, what is the craziest, most outrageous costume you saw at Comic-Con in your time? Because I know you're a guy.
Yeah, I've been there. And this is the only, me and KB was trying to go, but we couldn't because of the move and stuff. The craziest costume I saw. I'll say crazy good. I've seen some legit Batmans, like it was movie grade Batmans, and it was like, wow. I can't tell the difference. Good job. That's how you get to see that. And then the outrageous, I'll say something outrageous though. What is it? Walking Dead. They did their exhibit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And the zombies, like they were it was like, oh my God, that's crazy. How scary good it looks. And then the actors inside of it too, they're putting on the show, doing the that's the outrageous thing I've seen is the Walking Dead. Scared the crap out of my wife and kids. We had one of our daughters with us, and then they was like, no, we're not going over there. I was like, come on, they're just serious.
I still got to check it out one time. And it was actually there was one in Austin right now. It was like last weekend, and we missed it. We weren't there, and I was begging the kids, and I realized we couldn't go, but I'm gonna get there eventually, man.
Yeah, Comic-Con, it's a spectacle. A couple of my friends went. That was a group of us that we hang out together. We have a good old time buying toys, pretty much. Grown people buying toys and dressing up for Halloween on Saturday is their masquerade party that they do every Saturday. So that was just this past weekend. I mean, as you know, you brought it up here. So,
hey, G, man, good show to everybody where you can find you here before we bounce out.
I know, first one of the year so far. So you find Twitter and Instagram, Ahman Green 30, and also with the Gamers Lounge on TikTok. Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge on TikTok and YouTube as well, everyone. And so, Mike, let everybody
when are you going live on that, bud?
Not this week because I got to go to Big Ten Media Days because I'm a Big Ten coach now. So you can catch me there interviewing Rule and Fickle and remember James Franklin. James Franklin, I get to talk to him.
Oh, hey, listen, you give them hell, AG.
I will.
All right, everybody. We'll check you guys next time. Check us out. YouTube.com/process2perform. Mike Wall68 on Twitter, process2perform on Instagram. Thank you.